we're not judging the inmates. They've already been judged. They're going to court. All we're there to do is to make sure they don't get injured and take care of them pretty much.
Welcome to Insider Career Conversations. I'm your host, Sylvia Juarez. As an education and higher ed advocate, I'm dedicated to informing different communities about college readiness and admissions. I'm finding that more and more individuals are interested in non-traditional career paths. This sometimes leads to conversations about career options that aren't in the mainstream or obvious. Insider Career Conversations explores how to get into these niche fields, what trainings and education is needed, and other requirements that can make for a successful career. This season's conversation focuses on law enforcement through community engagement and educational opportunities. My co-host is retired officer Benny Green. Benny and I have partnered to enrich college and career days at middle schools. Our goal has always been to inspire students to explore how law enforcement might be a career for them. How are you doing, Benny? Can you believe that we've been doing this for a while and we still have topics to talk about?
First of all, thank you. I'm doing great. I know it's incredible. It just goes to show that when it comes to community engagement and law enforcement, it's a vast knowledge that needs to be learned and acquired and also put into action.
Absolutely. And I think that the more that you and I have these conversations and bring in guests will help explore more opportunities for folks out there. Today, I'm excited to introduce a very special guest, Officer Elias Lopez, and he's from the local sheriff's department. And I really want to thank him, first of all, for being here. And I really appreciate all he does out there in the community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the invite.
First of all, I'd like to say, once again, welcome. And can you tell our listeners and my partner and I basically kind of give us the rundown on the differences for those who don't know? What would be something like the difference between like a patrolling an unincorporated area versus maybe a incorporated area when it comes down to police versus sheriff's departments, things of that nature?
Well, my actual designation is a correctional deputy, and we're not sworn deputies. We don't have patrol. We don't have those law enforcement powers that a sworn deputy has. We mostly take care of the inmates, the ones that are incarcerated within our jail. Our main job is to make sure they go to court, make sure they don't hurt each other, make sure they're fed, make sure they're clothed. That's our primary basis. Although in Riverside County, they are starting to arm all of the correctional deputies so that the sworn deputies can go out straight to patrol as opposed to staying in the jail.
Can you tell us a little bit about your responsibilities?
Just so you know, I came on about 10 years ago. I didn't even know back then what a correctional deputy was. When I was offered opportunity to be in it, I was already older. I was 45 years old when I came on. I'm 55 now. So I've been in here 10 years, and it's been a great opportunity for me to be in this profession. Basically what we do, put it in a nutshell, we're pretty much babysitting adults. That's what we're doing. And it's something that I had never even considered. When I was young, in my 20s, I wanted to become a CHP officer, but that never happened through just different circumstances. So when I got the opportunity to do what I do now, to do this, to be able to go in, pass the background checks, pass the requirements for physical agility, and then just to get through the academy, to me was a blessing. And I think a lot of people don't understand that this type of profession is available. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know.
Right. And I think, one, you're touching on something very important, that you decided to do this at an age where some might think that they're already in an established career.
Correct.
Right. Where you were, full disclosure.
Well, yeah, I still am.
Yeah.
My other profession, which I'm still in, is a real estate broker. And my wife and I work together in that profession. So I'm still doing that. And it's 100% difference. It's a 180 between what I do. But in the same sense, the profession of law enforcement, people think, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I think people think law enforcement are people that are really rigid, possibly, maybe no creative type thinking. I don't know what people will think, but it's a really great profession. You get to help people. There's a whole array of inmates. Okay. Some inmates, they're there the one time and then they're gone. Other inmates are constantly going in and out. all the time. It's just what they do as part of their lifestyle. So you get to learn a lot about people as well. And the main thing is that in my profession, we're not judging the inmates. They've already been judged. They're going to court. All we're there to do is to make sure they don't get injured and take care of them pretty much until they get sentenced, and then they go off to the prison system or they're released because of their trial. If you maintain that professional stance, the job is very, very simple. But if somebody starts to get emotional about it or gets their ego hurt and they can't handle it, it makes for a really hard job. But in my case, since I came from a profession where it's customer service, I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
always say
absolutely.
please and thank you to the inmates
Uh-huh.
when they said, and I say, turn around when I'm going to cuff you up. I'll say, could you please turn around, face the wall? I'm going to go ahead and cuff you up now. They're like kind of confused that I'm being courteous
Yeah.
because that's just my profession for most of my life. From 19 years old till 45 years old has always been in the profession of customer service.
Well, by you doing that and handling these individuals who are, like you said, incarcerated for various different things,
Yes.
and by you handling them with the temperament and tone that you do, does that go a long way most of the time when dealing with people, when it comes down to engaging with them? Because, like you said, you are in the service industry. Does that help you having that kind of mentality, like you said, not being rigid, not being a certain way that some people may think that most officers are, but more of a I can be a jack of all trades when it comes down to how my emotions and how I deal with things, and when
Mhm.
it comes down to individuals with that respect, having that engagement, and that should, I would think, go a long ways in most cases.
I think absolutely you hit it on the head. I'll tell you right now, I have not been in any scuffles. I mean, minimal, maybe three or four. I mean, but over 10 years. I mean, minimal, where
Yes.
I listen, I watch them, I engage with them, and I treat them with respect until I can't. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Until
Right.
they prove different, that they don't deserve my respect, I'll continue to act toward them in a respectful manner. And they're very open to it. I mean, I'll walk down a tier of the ones that really did some bad stuff. I mean, for murders, people that are in gangs, and I'll engage with them. Everybody has a common denominator that you can engage with somebody, whether it's somebody's haircut, whatever it might be. You can always find a common denominator, and you just talk about the weather type of thing.
Right.
So you don't
Right.
you don't get into anybody with trying to oh, you're here for a reason, or you say, you deserve to be here, or I'm not going to give you what you want because you've done bad things. That's not part of our job. The way
It's
I
not
Right.
see it,
personal.
it's
Right.
not personal. It's never been personal. I've seen their charges, and I'm curious to know what they did because some of them are extremely courteous, very nice, but yet the guy killed his wife, and I'm like,
Mhm.
how the
Right.
heck did
Right.
he end up here?
And I guess part of it also probably has to do with the fact that your training has given you some semblance of how to continue to have your personality. Because I think a lot of individuals think that you get this type of training in law enforcement and it changes you or who you are, like the academy
You're
or.
right. I was actually a little bit hesitant thinking that would happen.
Mhm.
But instead, I kept my personality and I used it to the benefit of my job. So
Yes.
as
Yeah.
opposed to going the opposite direction of being, too stern or over the top with these individuals. And so for me, it helped, and I didn't change who I am. And you would know I'm in law enforcement if you met me in the street.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it's one of those things where you have, again, the public has an impression. And for me, for the purpose of this podcast, I really want individuals, because it's not just students. It's like you made a career change at an age where, again, people might think themselves more established and you've continued in that career. But I guess continuing with the conversation about training, what was the most surprising thing that you were trained to do that you actually liked and still kind of adopt independent of your job that you do with the sheriff's department?
You're getting immersed in a different world because you have to understand who the worst of the worst are, and you have to, there's a spectrum, and so you have to understand there are bad people and there are evil people and there are people that don't have a conscience, and your training allows you to, if you get into a situation, that you're able to take care of yourself. Plus, you're hand in hand with your coworkers, your fellow deputies that are there within a moment's notice. I mean, you're never alone. You can hear things in the facility, in the jail, when it's something's not right, whether it's a feet shuffling, whether someone's yelling at somebody, or whether we're always in alert, but without being like paranoid. And so
Right.
your training does kick in, it's automatic. And every year we go to get trained. Once a year, we have to go in and, follow up with, conditioning and different new laws that pop up because everything's always changing. The way you deal with the inmates, the way you cuff an inmate, the way you interact, certain things you can do, can't do. So things are always changing in policy, and you have to keep that in mind as well. But yeah, training is a big part of what we do.
Now, since we're on the topic of training, can you discuss, what kind of academy you attended, if there was one, the type of trainings you received, the type of training when it came down and engaging with these different individuals? And also, can you discuss any type of educational levels or advantages that would happen or that you need or don't need, and maybe something like the starting salary?
Yeah, the training was a lot of fun. The academy was a little under 3 months for a correctional deputy, and a sworn academy is 6 months. So, it's because you're dealing with weapons, scenarios. Sworn deputies have more responsibility. You have to know the law a little bit more because they're out in the streets. And a correctional deputy kind of takes the same path that a sworn deputy does, but only up to the 3 month level, because we're not dealing, like I said, usually typically with guns. We are doing that. We are getting guns now, but we're getting trained for that separately now. But it's a 3-month academy. I mean, we have taser training, pepper ball launcher training, learning how to handcuff, different scenarios, how you extracting inmates that are being uncooperative. I mean, also you're dealing with people that come in drunk and they're belligerent, and then you're dealing with how to deal with those type of individuals as well. So they really prepare you for all that. A lot of running, a lot of push-ups. So it's good. It pushes you to do better. It pushes your body, pushes your mind, and like I said, again, you're also studying mental health is a big part of what we're dealing with now in the jail facilities. So
That's great to hear, Eli. That's
yeah,
really good
we
to
have
hear.
medical and mental facilities. I mean, we have mental health staff that deal with giving them a certain prescriptions that they need. A lot of transients that are out there. I mean, they're out there not because they can't keep a job, but mentally, some of them don't have the wherewithal to maintain problems that they may have. They don't have access to these drugs, or because they're too expensive or whatever, and they end up on the street. So there's those people we got to deal with as well, and it makes it very difficult because we don't know who's coming through that door. And so you have to adapt to it on a constant basis, and that can be difficult. That can be draining sometimes. But with your people that you're trained with, the people you work as a team. Someone in your team can deal with it better than you can, and they'll step in. You know what I mean? So we have that really good team aspect to this profession, and I think that goes along also people on the streets. They depend on each other all the time.
Well, and I think that that's important because one of the things that I'm learning through Benny and individuals who we're interviewing, like yourself and others, I'm hearing the teamwork. And I think I hear often the reference to communities, not all communities, but some communities identifying the uniform as a brotherhood or, something of the like.
Yeah.
But that's different than having a team that you work with to get a common goal done. And in your case, making sure that this individual doesn't hurt themselves, because that's first and foremost, is that you're
That's true.
protecting that community member, regardless of what department you belong to and whatever circumstance, right? Because sometimes, and not necessarily in your case, but to a certain extent, I would argue that you don't know what you're walking into, even in your own facility. So
No.
you have to trust your team. And that, I think, identifies individuals who are out there who do want to be part of a team and do know that they have a tolerance level or an opportunity to be able to represent themselves in a way
Hmm.
that's professional in a setting that I'm assuming your day in the life is a little different than probably, somebody that has a 9 to 5 that is more office based,
Yeah.
right? Your day in the life, not to put words in your mouth, might be a little different every day. There is no set date. So can you tell us a little about that?
The one thing that I didn't plan on was the when I first came on 10 years ago, and I went to the academy and then I went to work, was that I didn't realize that they worked 12 hours.
Ah, okay. All
I
right.
had no idea. It was from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to be in here for 12 hours with all of these inmates, and I couldn't get over it. It's 12 hours. Holy cow. And then the next part of that was when it was time to do the shift change, and that was to working at nights. So now you're at
Mm,
6
okay.
p.m. to 6 a.m. And I'm like, how am I going to sleep when I get home? Well, trust me, that was not a problem. My best sleep came on the days when I came home, after 6 in the morning. I'm like, oh my gosh. So for anybody that's looking, to law enforcement, the hours they're long, but the way we work 4 days on, then you're 4 days off, then you're back to 3 days on, and then 3 days off. So you literally only work half of the month if you want to put it in certain like time frames.
Right, 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 right.
So you do work long hours, but you also get good time off.
Right, right, right.
So
Yes.
I think a lot of people don't understand that part of it. And then being a correctional deputy, those are your hours unless you want to work overtime. A sworn deputy, it's a little tougher. They have to stay sometimes, when they get to a scene, they might be there for hours after their shift is over, you know?
You can easily work a 16, 17 hour
Oh,
shift
yes.
with
Oh my God.
court,
That
let court late arrests that have to be finished, things like that.
Oh, yes. No, no. I have lots of friends within the department that are sworn deputies. Some of them come back and they reclass and they come back to become correctional deputies again.
Oh,
Because
wow. Okay.
because what happens, sworn deputies would work in the jail facilities for like a couple of years, and then they go to the streets. Well, some of them got so accustomed to the hours. When you go home, you're home. There's no going to court for a speeder or whatever. There's no reports to be worried about after your shift is. I mean, it's pretty much 6 to 6, go home. But a sworn deputy, I feel for them. I really do. They do a lot of extra work beyond just what they do regularly.
Right.
You know?
So I'm hearing flexibility is a big plus, at least
Yes.
from the position that you're referring to.
Uh huh.
Also, now we're going to broaden it up a little bit depending on the state. I've done some research and it seems like salary starts at 67,000. Is that sound about right to you
Yeah, that's
depending
that's
on the
right.
state? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's substantial because for some college graduates, depending on their major, that's not something that they are necessarily going to have access to for until a couple of years into their
Oh no,
profession.
exactly. The job is great. I mean, especially if you have a degree and you go in with a 4 year degree, you're getting paid better than someone that doesn't have a 4 year degree. And the department wants to have people that are educated. They want the 4 year degrees. They want people that have a master's degree. All that just betters the department. And then if you don't have a degree, they encourage you to get a degree. And then automatically you get an increase in pay as well for having a 4 year degree.
That's awesome. That's good to
Yeah, it
hear.
is.
Can you tell us like what's the most exciting, promising, or thing that you know that you can look forward to in your career that you know is coming potentially down the line, or something that you're able to do maybe on a daily basis or monthly, yearly basis, something where you can put your own print on your career and your job where you work that you know you helped people in some sort of way? Maybe it could be a situation that happened. It could be
Oh, you know what, Benny, you're so right. I mean, I think about this all the time, and I think nothing happens by accident in this life. And I personally help so many young deputies there because of my experience I've had in life. Because I'm able to talk to them about business, real estate. They come to
hmm
me for advice. I'm there. I'm so happy to help them. And then the inmates, same thing. I will have an inmate come up to me. I mean, this is weird. Uh, at a store and say, "Hey, Lopez." I'm like, "Oh shoot, that's guy from
Yep.
thing before, right?" And I'm like,
Yep.
"Hey, what's up?" He goes, "Hey man, I just wanted to let you know I really appreciate the way you talk to us and the way you handle yourself with us." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks. Well, good seeing you." And it's like that. I don't even carry a weapon off duty.
hmm
I have one, but I don't carry it with me, because it's what you put out, you'll get back.
Right, right.
And so you treat everybody with respect. Being able to be in this profession and be around these young people that work there, And then if I'm able to talk to an inmate that listens and I say, hey, you're wasting your time. You should really think about, when you get out, do something better, or maybe just the fact you talk to them a normal,
Right.
maybe all they need is someone to talk to them normal.
I think, Eli, in our community, it's important that they see a person of color that's not only giving them respect, but also not judging them.
Yeah.
Because they're probably in their most, I would argue, in a vulnerable situation. It may not seem like that because they've, to a certain extent, put themselves in that situation. I don't know circumstances, so I'm using a broad statement. But I'm assuming it's a nice thing to see that here is a Latino giving them respect, regardless of what might be happening in the circumstance, right? So I think for me, that speaks volumes that not only do you carry yourself with great integrity, but it's also important that you're carrying yourself, like we've talked about this, that's your true personality. You're not being forced to be a certain person. You started the department knowing your own person and who you are, that it was probably, I would think, easy to have these things, kind of these different layers added without it becoming something that's fake.
Well, a lot of these inmates, they grew up with uncles and aunts and, older friends, cousins that they're already in gangs. And so that's all they know. And then one decision leads to another decision that's not a good one. And it becomes a snowball effect. And before you know it, they go to juvenile hall. And then once they turn 18, they go to the regular facilities, and they feel like they're stuck. That's all they know. And I kind of get it. I mean, everybody who's born in a certain environment is prone to that environment. But then again, you have a lot of positive families where one of them goes sideways.
Right.
And we have deputies that grew up in a poor, bad neighborhood, and they're deputies. And that, in a sense, helps them in their job too, because they understand the lingo, they understand the situation that those kids might be in. So, our decisions, I mean, they're so important. One bad decision could lead to like 5 more bad ones. It's the circumstances sometimes. And hopefully at a certain point, if they're smart, they're able to get out of it.
Right. I really appreciate you sharing your stories and the impact of the work that you're doing in so many different ways, because I think it shows your commitment, it shows your character. And I know for me, I'm always very excited to be able to have conversations with you because I'm always learning.
I think it's outstanding because I like to get different viewpoints from different law enforcement agencies, from TSA to sheriffs to police, everyone, because at the end of the day, everyone's in a customer service oriented field when you join any type of law enforcement. If you come in with that mindset, number one, and then with an open mind, everything generally will fall into place. You will learn, you will understand. And even if you don't understand in a sense of, I would never do something like that, you at least understand potentially why someone else did what they did. You might not agree with it, but you understand. Correct. So I think that letting our listeners and people like Eli come on, it just gives us all a different angle and different way of looking at things, and also seeing different career paths and different things that you can choose that sometimes we don't always think about, especially as youth growing up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or in any case, because we're learning more and more that people are making pivots because of circumstances due to the pandemic, or just the employment path out there is not necessarily what it's shaped out to be, right? So thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate you joining our podcast. Please stay tuned for more insider career conversations that showcase career paths within law enforcement. Thank you for listening.
Insider Career Conversations is a production of Juarez Consulting. For more information, you can visit juarezconsultinginc.com. This episode was produced by Sylvia Juarez Magana, with production help and editing by Casimira Hall.